Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Dale, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Mount Pleasant, and I will be conducting our meeting tonight in the absence of the mayor. Again, welcome to our July 20th meeting here at 6 p.m. We just returned from the new sports complex for a tour, so we're getting started a little bit later with our agenda meeting here. At this time, if you would, please stand, and I'll ask Councilman Walker to lead us in a word of prayer, led by Councilman Adams with the pledge. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, we'll go right into our meeting here. First item tonight will be to consider the approval of our minutes of the June 15th regular session meeting, the June 22nd of 2021 special meeting, and a July 6th, 2021 regular meeting. I'm sure everyone's had a chance to look over the past agendas and see if there's anything needs to be corrected or added to.
I'll move the approval of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Councilman Adams, seconded by Councilman Chappelle. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you. It was approved unanimously. Our second item on the agenda, we will go to our financial statements here from Ms. McKell Reeves. She will go over the statement of revenue and expenses, etc.
Thank you, Council. I have before you the June financial statements. We're approximately 75% through our budget year with 25% remaining. Our revenues are about 84% collected, which is really good, and we're at about 78% of our expenses. We have paid a lot of our one-time expenses, which is the reason we're at so high of our expenses. Most of our liability insurance are usually just one-time expenses, and so we've paid a lot of those. We've paid down some of our grant expenses as well, which we have received reimbursement for those. We are doing really well on our expenses to date. And so our revenue is also coming in where we expected it. On the water and sewer side, we are also where we expected those. We have about 28% of our revenue remaining to be collected on the water side, and we are at about 24% for our expenditure. So we're just a little bit under. So we're at 74% expended on our expenditures. So we're looking very good on the water and sewer side as well. For our sales tax, we are doing very, very well on our sales tax collection at about 14.9% above budget. So we are doing really good overall. This month we did 17.34% above last year's numbers. So we had a really, really good month. So we are still, doing excellent. So I'll take any questions that y'all have on financials.
Do we have any questions from the council? Any concerns, comments?
What's the status on the hotel taxes? Are we getting 100% collection now?
Yes, we are getting 100% collections. We're actually collecting a little bit more than what we were. There's a graph in your financial that shows where we are on those. Let me see if I can pull that.
And where is that compared to last year before we started this audit? And all, do you have that?
Yes, just give me just a second to get. Sorry, my laptop's doing. So right now we're at, we were about 22% up this month, with where we were compared to last year. So the hotels are doing very well. We're about 14.26% above last year at this time where we were. And, we expect to be, on average, for the March, we were right around 0.34%. So we have gradually gone up, and then in April, we were like 4.77%. We had a really good month in May, June. So we're doing really, really well for hotel motel tax.
Just for the public, what this is the collection of the hotel motel taxes that they do and pay the city, which had been laxed a little bit over the years.
Yes, so we did, when COVID hit, some of the hotels weren't as full as they were before. And so it seems like now, especially for May and June, the hotels are now finally getting full again. And so our revenue is really picking up. Also, towards the end of your packet, there is the update on the payment of all of our project funds, are in the back, as well as our cash balance report. I have those in there included as well. So you can see where we are up to date on all of our projects.
Okay, any other questions or concerns from the council? If not, thank you very much for being here and rendering these financials tonight, Ms. Reed.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to item number 4 on our agenda, which will be consider the approval of Resolution 2021-22 for the sale of Lot 5, Block 401 in the city of Mount Pleasant to Eric Torres. And I'll give a quick little item summary here. The property located 703 East 16th. The tax appraisal at the time of the suit was $47,994 for this lot with a structure on it. The lot itself had a value of $3,840. The judgment amount was $25,607. Eric Torres has offered $4,000 for the lot. The structure is not habitable and must either be moved or torn down. And they received a second bid for this property from Alan Salinas for $3,000. And you'll see attached here what we got on as far as the dollar amounts and what they're looking at paying here. Do we have any questions or concerns from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion concerning this resolution 2021-22 for the sale of Lot 5, Block 401.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-22 for the sale of Lot 5, Block 401 in the city of Mount Pleasant to Eric Torres.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, seconded by Councilman Adams for the sale. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously. We'll move on to item 5 on our agenda tonight, which will be the consider and approval of resolution 2021-23 for the sale of Lot 1, Block 22B, the city of Mount Pleasant to Heather Odom A quick summary on that will be the property located at 1321 Taylor Street here in Mount Pleasant. The tax appraisal at the time of the suit was $1,932 for the vacant lot. The judgment amount was $3,044.14. And Ms. Heather Odom has offered $500 for this lot. Does the council have any question or concerns concerning this item?
How big is this lot?
There's a drawing here on about the third page over, Councilman, that shows 150 foot by 50 foot. It's a corner lot here on Taylor Street.
Council, if I could just, if you'll just notice, it's been struck off since April of 2014.
You see the letter attached here from Tim Taylor, though, recommending that we move this on and get it back on the tax roll. If there's no other question, then I'll entertain a motion concerning this.
I'll move resolution 2021-23.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Adams, seconded by Councilwoman Sproul. At this time, I'll ask Madam Secretary to please record the vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was unanimous for the sale. We'll move on to item 6 at this time. At this time, we'll move on to item 6, which is to consider the acceptance of the new sports complex and a final pay request, number 27, from Symmetry Turf for the work on the new sports complex. And the financial impact is $339,411.82. As you may see, council, just for the public here, MHS Planning and Design has sent us a letter here to the city concerning it being completed and the warranty items and et cetera. And at this time, welcome Lanny Buck to go over these items and answer any questions.
If you don't mind, we've got a video that we've made to show the council of the park itself. Just take a minute or two, and then we can move into it.
Sure, we'll welcome that. Do we need to turn the lights down?
Sorry. That was kind of a summary of what has gone on out there at the park and the sports complex, and what we've got tonight is consideration of final payment, as you mentioned, for the $339,411.82. Are there any questions?
Just for the public that might not have seen that, I'll add, it's a 1 mile walking trail. We have 5 lit soccer fields. I think that's what it shows, 143 acres with a 40-acre park. The large concession stand with the 2 pavilions. We have 396 parking spaces plus an overflow area. And that's kind of what we was looking at there, just for the public that might be watching us here.
Yes, sir. And this, pending acceptance of this, then the warranty period would start right after your acceptance. So tomorrow, if you accept it tonight. And there are a few items, of course, that still need to be taken care of, but we would entertain taking care of those for under warranty.
Lanny, with that said, do you know off the top of your head which of those punch list items still remain outstanding?
So I'll miss something, I'm sure, but there's some plumbing, a couple of plumbing leaks that have happened in the one of the restrooms that was just discovered recently. There is some overseeding that needs to take place. There's a little bit of fill that needs to take place. There are some plastic parts for the playground area that needs to be replaced. Yes, the fountain has a tendency to trip out ever so often. So those are the items that I can think of off the top of my head.
As far as the streets go and the drainage with the creek and all that, you're satisfied with?
We are satisfied with that at this time. We have worked a lot on the drainage out there, and it is to a point now that we feel like it's acceptable.
I just want to take just a second as we look at this. I'd like to remind my fellow councilmen that we need to take a lesson from what we went through with this. We're 2 years behind schedule, almost 3 years, and the contract doesn't allow for anything as far as deadlines and penalties and things like that. We need to, as we go forward, not just this project but other projects as well, we need to look at making sure that we're set up for deadlines. We need to make sure we're set up for penalties if those deadlines aren't met. We need to make sure that there's repercussions drawn into the contract. We need to, even to the point of adding bonus points if the contract's completed early. Those are things that we need to learn from this. And as we look at what we've got, we just came from out there and we were discussing the fields, and that's been a big issue. Is they weren't being mowed properly. They weren't, and finally we just took over the fields and started mowing them just so they'd be mowed properly. Those are things that we shouldn't have to do, but we are doing them. We're going to fix it, but it's not perfect, And my main question was, we were promised a field that was a hybrid grass that was going to be perfect, and it's not that way, So as we go forward, y'all make sure we keep this in mind as individuals, that things can go wrong. So if you know somebody, it's not just a handshake deal. We need to get stuff in paper, because we're not representing ourselves and the people we're doing business with. We're representing the citizens of the city and their money that's being spent. So we need to take caution on things like this in the future.
Any other questions or concerns to be addressed at this time? Thank you, Lanny. If not, at this time, I'll open the floor for a motion for the acceptance of the new sports complex and final payment request number 27 to Symmetry Turf for the work on the new sports complex.
I'll move the final payment number 27 to Symmetry Turf.
I second the motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Adams, seconded by Councilmember Walker. At this time, Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. The vote was unanimous to approve the payment. This time, we'll move on to item number 7, which is to consider the approval of pay request from MHS Planning and Design for work on the new sports complex, which the final impact on this one is $594.43. And Lanny will go over and answer any questions on this one.
So this is the 100% payment for MHS for the construction administration for the sports complex. And this is the final amount that's due to them.
Do you remember offhand what the total amount was?
I do not remember what the total amount was.
We have any questions from the council concerning this pay request from MHS that Mr. Buck could answer?
Yeah, on the invoice, it actually says construction administration 98% completed at $500, and then mileage was $94.43. Am I to understand this is final payment? This is 100% complete.
I may have misspoken there. There may be 2% more, but it's really close.
And Lanny, just a question, not necessarily in regards to this particular invoice, but when it comes to warranty, is that gonna be, if we have an issue, is that gonna go to Symmetry or to MHS?
So it will go to Symmetry, but MHS will help do the correspondence with that, and so they're on the hook for that for the next year as well.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Lane. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
If there does happen to be any warranty issues, how's it, and this may not, you may not be the one to answer this, but do we typically go ahead and do it and then ask to be reimbursed? You don't just let it sit out there and churn, and what, do you happen to know how that works, that work gets performed, and who decides if it is a warranty issue or not?
So we will work to decide that, and we'll work with MHS to make sure that we decide that's a warranty issue or not. Traditionally, what happens is we'll send a note to the contractor, and the contractor will go take care of it, and that should be the end of it. There is a maintenance bond, I believe, on this as well. So if it doesn't happen, we have a way to fall back.
If there's no other, thank you, Lanny. If there's no other questions, I'll open the floor for a motion on this approval of pay request for MHS.
I make a motion, we approve pay request for MHS Planning and Design for work on the new sports complex.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilmember Adams. At this time, would you record the vote, Madam Secretary?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was passed unanimously. We'll move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which is to consider the award of a bid for payment, which is consider approving Anchor Contracting LLC out of Sulphur Springs. We welcome Lanny back to go over this with us.
I was going to say Keith was going to get up with me, but he stayed there. So,
He was trying to get up back there. He was heading this way.
Keith has a list of them ready to go, so he ought to come up with you and go over that list for you.
Okay, the streets are, we're gonna do like a mill and inlay, and that's what we kinda need to do with all the, we hot mixed before, and we have chip seal over a lot of the street. We can't keep going up. So we're gonna have to mill them down, and then we're gonna have like a 2-inch milling process and come back with 2 inch. And on those streets, it's gonna be Neville's, Lee Street, Church, Choctaw, Arizona, Tab, Ricky, Red Spring, West 13th, and County Road 1312. And County Road 1312 was on the slurry seal at first, but that's one we need to hot mix. So, and on our slurry, we're gonna be out in Neville's area, and I think Neville's itself gonna be hot mix, but the slurry is gonna go like with Sleepy Hollow, Shady Hollow, all across the street, Silver Creek, Silver Spring, Silver Oak, and Silver Maple, Silver Leaf, and we're gonna do Sandlin, Circle, Forest, East Lawn, Keith, Bryant, 16th, Houston, Ellis, 14th, and Pounder. And I'm naming the streets because I don't know if you guys have this sheet or not, but I'm sorry. So we're gonna do like Sleepy Hollow from Neville to the cul-de-sac. It's gonna be cross street, and I'm sorry if we didn't make any copies for you to look at that. But well, it's gonna be like 31,000 square yards. So as for the mileage, I didn't do the mileage on it, and
I rode with Keith, and he showed me all the project. It's not just like a block. I mean, it's a lot of these streets getting done. It's gonna be really good for the community.
When we mill this down, what do we do with the milling? Do we stockpile that and use that for other?
we're gonna get about half of the milling, and the contractor gonna take the other half, gonna haul them up.
What's the projected time frame on this from start to finish? Do we have a kind of a schedule for that already?
Well, we're looking at 60 days. The slurry is gonna be the one that we're probably gonna have to get with, the contractor's gonna get with the homeowner, and we're gonna door tag and let them know what's going on. I'm also gonna send guys out, and we're gonna talk to them before we actually come there. We're gonna try to give them like a couple of days' notice, and then we'll actually let them know the next day when we're gonna start. Because with the slurry, you know, you on a chip seal, you can kind of put it down, and traffic can have it kind of after you get out the way. Have before traffic can get on it. So, and that's why we're gonna have to get with the people in the neighborhood and let them know what's going on. And the contractor have told us they're gonna get with us, and we all gonna get together and do what we have to do to let the people know when we're gonna be out there.
Do you recall, Lanny, what the budget amount was for this?
So I visited with Mikel, and I think the budget was like 1.1 million, so we're way within the budget.
Just for the public here, we had two bids on this. One was for $658,000 basically, and the bid we're accepting tonight would be for $614,855. So it came in considerably less than what.
And we're familiar with this contractor.
Yes, we worked with the contractor before. It's Kevin, don't have a note, but out of Silver Spring, Texas J&amp. That's what I'm trying to think of, Texas J&amp.
Keith, you told me this contractor's the one that also is working on the State 49.
Well, that's why the milling price, the hauling was kind of cheaper, because he already had trucks here. So if you look at, you can look at the salvage, number one, it's like $75. And the reason he is low because he already have trucks here working on the 49 project.
But they've done projects for us before within the city here over the last few years.
If you look at right here at Cypress, at a street right there, they did that. They did a parking lot They did, going out to the airport, I mean, not the airport, but the wastewater plant. And, they worked with us quite a bit.
And this is, Chuck Vitito out of Sulphur Springs, is that who owns the company? Okay.
That's who got the bid. He subcontracted to take things.
Okay, do we have any questions from the council or concerns or comments for Lanny or Keith? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the presentation. At this time, if there's no other questions or concerns, I'll open the floor for a motion concerning the award of this bid for the pavement.
I make a motion, we award the bid for pavement rehabilitation to Anchor Contracting LLC out of Sulphur Springs.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilmember Adams. At this time, Madam Secretary, record the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously.
If y'all like, if you want a copy of this street, we'll get a copy. We'll email you a copy of the street so you'll know what's going on.
Will be good. Thank you. Appreciate the presentation, guys. We'll move on to item number 9 on our agenda tonight, which is to consider the approval of the pay request to GM Roberts, Inc., doing business as Corrosion Eliminators for work on School Street Rehab. The financial impact on this would be $52,012.22. Welcome.
Good evening, council. The pay request before you is for amount payable of $52,012.22 to Corrosion Eliminators. Do you have any questions on the pay request?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. In our last meeting that we talked about this particular project, we were told that they would probably be done with the tower around the first part of August. Okay, August 15th. So I show that the contract time is 300 days. That started on October 16th. We're at 277 days as of today, at least 23 days, which is not August 15th. So what? Do we have a thing in place where they're going to be penalized for being late, or what are we going to do here? Because here we are. That goes back to Councilman Adams' recommendation about the sports complex project. We're going to already be over the contract time.
I'll let Brittany answer that, but we probably should keep in mind about the COVID situation. I don't know if we need to or not. The COVID situation where they've lost employees and they can't get employees back. That seems to be the biggest thing. But Brittany, you might answer that. Looks like we're going to go probably till October before it's going to be finished.
Okay, because we went back, and I went back and told Verizon that the Verizon folks that reached out to me said it looked like it might be August, that this was going to be done. I don't want to be the one to go back to them now and tell them it's going to be October. So we just need to have a very good explanation why it's going to be extended another 2 months.
Can you ask your original question?
Yeah, the original question was, it shows here that the contract date was 300 days, or contract time, and the date that the notice to proceed date was given was October 16th. So if they were given the NTP on October 16th, we're at 277 days as of today. So there's 23 days left in their contract time of 300 days.
Yes, sir. The last change order added a time extension on the contract for the project.
That's not reflected on their estimate here. I don't see where that's reflected. It doesn't show that it added days.
How many days was added, do you recall, Brittany?
I think it was 90 days, but I'm not 100% sure on that. That was our last meeting that I attended. But their last schedule hasn't changed from, we haven't been provided an updated schedule. I will say that. They still showed demobilization at the end of August, but I will say they appear to be behind schedule. there is language in the contract for liquidated damage past the contract date if the city wishes to enforce that.
Did I not remember Andrew saying we had a $500 a day penalty? Is that not what he said?
That is the liquidated damage amount. It's $500 per day past the contract time.
So are we talking about the contract time now being extended 90 days, or are we still talking about what is the contract date for the total fulfillment?
I don't have that date with me.
So in a particular case like this on this project, it's unique because we have tenants on there from multiple Tier 1 wireless carriers that rely on our tower to provide reliable wireless service to customers that live here and pass through this area. You know, going forward, we need to really hold these contractors to these strict guidelines because, you know, they're affecting other businesses because they're taking so long to get this project done.
When this comes up like this in the 90-day extension, who's responsible for notifying these contractors that Councilmember Chappelle's talking about in order to get them in back in line and know that this contractor is behind about days and we've extended more days? Who notifies them would be my question.
We have already notified the contractor.
Who are you referring to as a contractor?
Corrosion Eliminators?
Okay, but I think that Councilman Dale's referring to like Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile. They're the tenants on that tower. They need to be made aware and stayed in the loop on this schedule of what's going on, why there's a delay, why they didn't reach their meet their original commitment date, et cetera, so they can let their customers know because they're getting overwhelmed with day-to-day phone calls and emails of why is my service poor, why is my data slow, et cetera.
We have been in constant communication through the project with those providers.
And what is their response to you, the ones that you've talked to? Are they agreeing with you, or are they telling you to get the contractor's acting gear? I mean, what is their response to you, if you don't mind telling the council?
They just send an email for an update on the end date.
I personally would appreciate on the next council meeting a visit from a representative of Corrosion Eliminators. But I'd like to hear them tell us their report, not through you guys, them directly as to what the holdup is. And because we're going to have to make a decision as to whether we try to collect some of that $500 a day overage, I think. And I think it'd be, if it was my contract, I'd come and face the council face to face and explain and ask possibly, is there any way we can work together?
So is this contract calendar day, is it working days, or is there rain, do they get rain days, or is it just straight days?
We have given rain days.
So I think we probably should know how many of those we've given them, what the end date really is supposed to be, and if they're having troubles, what is the problem? I know they're having a hard time keeping engineers and people on the tower. They come for one day and then they're gone, and they're having to hire somebody else. So.
And that's what I'm saying. It'd be nice to hear from them some of their complications. I know that many entities are dealing with employment and workforce-related issues, but I would just think it'd be, especially for whatever the reason, if they're not going to be able to perform according to the contract, come and give us an explanation from them as to why.
I can certainly ask them to attend.
I also have, again, a concern about the tenants we have because, again, these are the big carriers out there, and if they don't get back on the tower within a certain period of time, behind you, they'll be working behind the scenes and find another location to get off this tower and get on something else, because we are affecting tens of thousands of their subscribers on a daily basis that come through here. And all my point being is that these contractors going forward have to understand what kind of impact that has when we have to take their antennas off of our tower for us to do this maintenance, which I know we only do every 10 plus or 20 years, whatever it is, but regardless of how long it is between the times we do it, we impact their business. And so I just want to make sure we reiterate that to these contractors, that it also affects other people besides the city's water.
I have a question. If we table this item, will there be a penalty as far as the city has to pay on it?
What type of penalty?
Tonight, will the city be penalized?
Not to my knowledge.
And what are we still holding? Are we still holding, what are we holding still?
The total adjusted contract amount is listed at the top for $732,435.
And our last payment to them, am I correct, was $126,101? Or is that total payments?
That's the total. There have been 6 approved pay requests to this point for a total of $126,101.76.
So we still owe them around $600,000 in round numbers.
Yeah. Yes.
And with this extension of 90 days, that was, that, again, just make it clear for the public, that was added on to what Councilman Chappelle, we're talking about August 15th. So you're talking about in October and,
No, that was to the original contract time.
So that would be 390 days, am I correct in saying that? We add in the 90 to the 300 that was contract time, would I be right in saying that, or is it prorated somehow a different way?
The 300 days should include the adjusted extension on the time.
any other questions from the council for Ms. Brittany? Concerns or comments? Okay, thank you, Brittany. No other comments, and I'll ask for the will of the council on for the considering the approval of the pay request from J&D Construction Ltd. for the work. I'm sorry, I'm on another one for the GM Roberts Incorporated doing as the corrosion eliminators for the school street. Do we have a motion?
For Jim Robert, corrosion eliminator for the work at the school rehab.
I'll second the motion. We're still holding a good bit of money, so I think we're good to do that. And there was an 80-day extension that I did not recall, but I just looked at it, and there was an 80-day extension on that. So I'll second that motion.
Thank you, council. We have a motion made by Councilman Walker, approved, second by Councilmember Adams. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. That was approved unanimously. We'll move on at this time to item 10, which is to consider the approval of a pay request from Texas J&D Construction Ltd. for the work on a 12-inch West Loop water line. The financial impact on this would be $11,875, and concerning a 12-inch West Loop water line pay request. And we'll welcome Ms. Brittany with the KSA back.
Council, this is the first pay request from J&D Construction for the 12-inch water line. They're asking for half a mobilization.
And we're satisfied with the work performed so far on what they've done here.
Yes.
Any,
If I'm looking at this right, Tim, this is strictly for mobilization, insurance, and bonds. I don't know if they've actually done any actual work other than the legal piece, some paperwork stuff there.
I agree. That's all it is, but to our knowledge, I guess my question would be, they have got the insurance and the bonding that they're asking for the pay request. They do have that in place.
Yes, and they're on site. They have mobilized.
Okay, any questions, concerns? Okay, thank you, Ms. Brittany. If not, then at this time, I'll entertain a motion concerning the approval of this pay request for $11,875 as presented.
So moved.
I second them.
Have a motion by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Walker to approve, this time. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. That was approved unanimously. We'll move on to item number 11 on our agenda this evening, which is to consider the approval of a monthly airport hangar rental fee increase. And at this time, we'll welcome Mr. Paul Henderson, the man at the airport. Thanks for being here, Paul.
Hey, good to be here, council. As y'all saw, the airport board met last month and went over the hangar rates. This is something we do every few years because of the inflation rates and whatever. And it was saw that we needed to go up, and we compared to some of the other airports. And I think Sulphur Springs was shown here, which is an airport that compares to. It's a really nice airport. Ours is a little better, but anyway. And it was their opinion, the airport board, to raise the rates, and it falls in pretty well with consumer price index. So I think we're where we need to be.
When was our last increase? And do you recall?
It was almost 4 years ago. We can go up only on January the 1st is when the new rate goes up. So it'll be January 1st.
Do we pretty well keep these hangars rented out, Paul?
Oh, that's not a problem. I mean, we've got a waiting list as long as your arm, and Ed will probably tell you more here in a little bit about hangars.
Just for the public's knowledge here, the ones that are not seeing what we're seeing, this rate would take effect, as Mr. Henderson said, on January 1 of 2022. The recommended rate increase would be for the standard T hangar would be a $25 a month increase from $175 to $200. The large T hangars from $195 to $220. The E hangars from $650 to $700, and the small aircraft from $125 to $150. So we're talking about a small increase, just for the public knowledge. Do we have any questions or concerns for Mr. Henderson concerning these rate increases, council? If not, thank you, Mr. Henderson. Appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks for what you do at the airport. At this time, I'll entertain a motion, the approval of this monthly airport hangar rental rate increase as presented.
I move to approve the monthly airport hangar rental rate increases.
I second the motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Chappelle, seconded by Councilmember Walker for the approval. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was approved. At this time, we'll move on to 12 on our agenda this evening, which is to consider the approval of a disposal rate increase at our Pleasant Oak landfill. As you may see, as the council may see here, we've got a letter from Pleasant Oaks landfill from Republic. Mr. Thatcher, would you like to kind of highlight that for us?
They're asking for an increase of about 3.5%. We did obtain a copy of the CPI from the Dallas area, Southwest Labor Statistics Southwest office. It's out of Dallas, and it looks like the consumer index is all over the place, from 4%. And maybe, I mean, it goes from 2.5%, 3% in the last year, up to 7 or 8 or 9% for some things: energy, food, and transportation, and housing, and it looks like it's an average. It's an average up to about 7% or so. So a 3.5% is definitely within the range that we could do.
Just for the public knowledge here, we have an agreement, the city of Mount Pleasant has an agreement with Pleasant Oaks Landfill, and it calls for a rate adjustment that's consistent with the CPI of all urban consumers of the Dallas-Fort Worth region, which we are in. The agreement states that the price adjustment should be calculated as of April 1 and reflect the most recent available CPI for a 12-month period immediately preceding that date. Okay? And of course, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics for our area, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth, that CPI period, as Mr. Thatcher said, is 3.4. So it's within their guidelines, and we do have an agreement with them that they did go up on us, and they're requesting this 3.4 adjustment, and their disposal rate of $36.89 per ton, and is what we are now. The new rate, it would go from $36.89 per ton. It will go to $38.14 per ton effective October 1.
And so this is an increase in the landfill, but there's not a request for an increase in garbage pickup fleet.
To our consumers here, no.
To the citizens, and also our citizens could go out to the landfill with a utility bill and dump free.
So to be clear, at this time, there will be no increase on the citizens or the customers' end user bill.
Yes, that's right.
Do you know when the last change was?
I do not. I don't think we've had one since I've been here on the landfill. We had one maybe 2 years ago at adjustment. We didn't have one last year in COVID for either one. I know that as I look here, the consumer price index, it was 1.7 for a couple of months in the beginning of the year. Then the rest of the year, it was up to 6.3 as an average. So they're well within that.
I don't recall either. I think it's been a few years since we've had an increase from them. If I remember, which you would know that. But go ahead, Mr. Shipper.
Ed, just so we're all clear on the same page, I'm reading further down in this letter that it says, this adjustment to the minimum royalty would increase the minimum monthly payment that Pleasant Oaks Landfill will make to the city of Mount Pleasant from $34,993.48 to $36,133.27. So it's saying that they're going to pay us.
That's correct. So when they raise their rates, the percentage of our cost goes up, so we'll get more money in.
We get a sizable amount from them each year, based on the right, and they haul stuff in from other areas to us. So the more they bring in, the more money the city gets, which is good for us.
I move for the approval of the disposal rate change for Pleasant Oaks Landfill.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, Walker, second by Councilmember Chappelle, to approve of this disposal rate change as presented tonight. Madam Secretary, would you please?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. It was approved unanimously for that increase. We'll move on to item number 13, which is consider resolution 2021-24, authorizing the city to participate as part of a coalition of cities in proceedings to be held by the Railroad Commission of Texas related to the implementation of House Bill 1520. And I'll let Mr. Thatcher do the summary here if you'd like for it.
Yes, our coalition cities, the attorneys are representing us in Austin, the Center Point Gas. They've got requests down there to change some legislation, and it will make it easier for them to really circumvent this process of going through the cities. And so they're representing us there, and would ask that we approve this resolution, that we'll participate with them representing us at the Congress, with the Railroad Commission and the representatives down there.
And this comes up how often, Ed? I know we've done this several times. It's my tenure here. You know, we participate with this over the years. I don't.
Yeah, almost every year when there's a rate increase request from the electric shop or Center Point, then we hire them. This is a little different. This comes about almost every 2 years. Whenever the legislature gets in session, then there's requests to change legislation. That's what's happening here.
Like I said, we participate for a number of years now, I know. Any questions or concerns from the council?
Are there any fees associated with this?
We get reimbursed, I believe, don't we?
I'm asking about legal fees though before we get reimbursed.
There won't be any at first. They're usually, as far as the rate request, it's reimbursed by in the settlement, the company asking for utility pays them. There could be some now in this because this is the legal fees representing us against the Congress. We don't know what it is, and so we'll go forward in faith. But sometimes they can absorb it without us doing it because they have kind of a fund built up for this kind of thing. So we won't know if we have to participate. And if we do, it's done by population. So some of the bigger cities pay more and we pay less.
It's normally just standard procedure.
That's correct. We participate in this. Do we have any other questions or concerns for the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to consider this resolution 2021-24, authorizing the city to participate in this coalition as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilmember Chappelle. Madam Secretary, would you report the vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously. We will move on to item 14 on our agenda, which is to discuss and consider the approval of Acuna de la Hoya subdivision Phase 1, being a replat of a tract of land located in the Berry Merchant Survey, abstract number 358, Titus County, Texas, in the block 153 of the city of Mount Pleasant, and being part of a called 3.00 acre tract conveyed to Alfredo Villarella in a deed known as instrument number 20173317 on the public records of Titus County, Texas, located on the west side of Lawn Avenue north of 9th Street, and will take any action as necessary.
Good evening, council. This is a replat that's been brought to us. As you stated, it's a 3-acre tract. It's located on Lawn Street. It was sold to this developer by the church that's adjacent to it, just to the south of it. They sold off 3 acres of the property, and I think it's been set up for development for a number of years. I think there were some sewer stubs out that are already there. He's sort of realigning it. He's basically elected to just plat 4 lots that are fronting out to the street now, with leaving a sort of a leave out that will be potentially could be a street that would go into the back of the property, or it will just bleed into a separate lot that would be in the back. He wanted to start out by just doing 4 lots to kind of get it going and see how it works out for him over there. So that's why the configuration is the way it looks in this plat. We have met internally with our DRC group, and there's water and sewer available. As I've said, there's water's out there too in front. We do have some fire protection with meet the code requirements that are close. Fire hydrants are there, and again, it's existing street condition. They are taking access. It'll be direct or front access to these homes that'll face out to the street. Again, if indeed they develop the back part of the property and decide to do more than 1 lot back there, which they possibly could, with the zoning requirements of the SF2, which are our minimum size lots for residential development, then there potentially could be some extra fire protection that has to be put in, and possibly a hydrant would be put in down that street. So, excuse me. Along with that, before construction would start, we would, once these lots are approved, they come back in with a plot plan. We would ask for a grading plan to make sure we have the drainage, don't have any drainage issues there, and how those lots would drain. So, with that being said, the staff would recommend that you approve the plat based on what was submitted to us. The Planning and Zoning Commission at the last meeting on the 13th of July approved it by a vote of 4-0. I'll be glad to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Robert. At this time, do you have any questions from the council?
Robert, just for knowledge sake, what is the requirements for fire hydrants? So in this case, you said they may have to add one in the future. So if you have a fire hydrant, what's the max distance that you can be before you need to add another one?
I think locally here is 500 feet, and you do the radius thing. So it wasn't absolutely positive they'd have to have another hydrant back there, but there is a possibility that could happen if they can't get it back there.
Any other questions or concerns for Robert concerning this replat? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this.
I move we approve it.
I second the motion.
I have a motion made by Councilmember Sproul to approve, second by Councilmember Walker. At this time, Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 15, and Robert will go over this. This is to discuss and consider approval of a final plat of Lot 1, Block A, Royal Ranch Edition, being all that certain tract situated in the city of Mount Pleasant, Titus County, part of the John Thompson Survey, abstract number 567, being the 12.302 acre tract conveyed to the Villanueva C&M Limited Family Limited Partnership by deed recorded at Titus County document number 2020-26-125, being generally located on the east side, US 271, approximately 1,500 feet north of FM 127, which is Priscilla Road. And then we'll take any necessary action, and we welcome Robert back.
Council, this came to you several months ago as a preliminary plat. We approved the preliminary plat, and what we'd done is decide to let the developer build based on that preliminary plat, get all the improvements, engineering improvements and whatnot in. They did do detention, which was a requirement. At the time, we were not able to provide sewer to them, but we discussed that, and we basically as a condition of approval, we've got that in front of you, but we had them sign off on a facilities improvement agreement, basically saying that at the time we can get sewer there within 150 feet of their property, that they'll have basically 180 days to connect, and they've signed into that agreement, and we just brought that to you as sort of a formality that you approve. By approving this plat, you're approving that facilities agreement also. Mr. Thatcher will sign off on that, and that way we've got an assurance. There's not a question about hooking back up the sewer once they get it, and they're fine with that. They very prefer to do that, but right now they're having to go with the aerobic system out there on their area that they've got. They are also, I believe that it was anticipated that we would get that water line that we're currently under construction with, we mentioned tonight, but obviously we're not going to get there with it. So they had the option to go ahead and drill a well and go ahead and put a well out there for a temporary purpose. They're going to be able to do that, but they are going to have to hook up the water. We asked them to stub out and be prepared when we got the service there to be able to hook up to the water. They may still be able to use their well for irrigation if they wanted to, but they're going to hook up the city water for sure. Again, this is a final plat. It's in compliance with the approved preliminary. So with that being said, the staff would recommend you approve this with just the condition that they sign the facilities improvement agreement, which they have, and that's in copy in front of you tonight. So with that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve this on July 13th, again by a vote of 4-0. I'm glad to answer any questions, man.
Robert, refresh my memory, what is the Royal Ranches addition? What actually are they gonna be building there?
I'm sorry I didn't mention. It's the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. It's the office building. Yeah, it's complete. Just about. I think I don't know if they've actually officially opened, but we final. Yeah, I think they're starting operations out there. So that's what this is. Yeah, look, the pier they were open to me too. Yeah, we were filing out the engineering. There might be some other, this was the final step. We just need to get this plat approved and filed.
Do you hear any other questions for Robert concerning this approval of this plat from the council? Any concerns, questions, comments? Robert? If not, I'll entertain a motion concerning the approval of this plat, Lot 1 as discussed.
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilmember Chappelle, second by Councilmember Adams for the approval. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. This was approved unanimously. We'll move on to item 16, which is a public hearing and presentation on the 2020 Drinking Water Quality Report. And we welcome Anthony Razor here to the mic to review it with us. Welcome, Anthony.
Mayor and council. Yeah, long walk, and I'd like to say first off to the men that work at the water plant and the utility department guys that do such a great job at giving us the quality water that we have. And we meet and exceed TCQ EPA regulations every year. So with that, if y'all have any questions, I'll try to answer.
I've got one, Anthony, just for the sake of knowledge. I'm looking here at the chart for the inorganic contaminants, and it shows the range of detective levels with the value from low to high. And our highest level at any sampling point was on the high side of that range. Is that normal?
With the inorganics, that can be anything that comes into the water system at the time. It's not it's just something that we put in for record's sake. It's not something that is a TCQ mandated violation or anything like that. It's just for knowledge. So what we do is we pull all the turbidities that we can out, and that's what the inorganic are.
Okay, and I guess just for more clarity's sake on that, for example, nitrate on here, it shows that the scale or the range is 0.077 to 0.445. And our sampling was 0.445 on the very upper end of that level. That's why I'm asking, is that normal to be on the high end of that inorganic contaminant?
What those are is numbers that we actually do in our testing, and so that's where we put those in. There's not an actual number on there. We just show those to be the rates or the low to the high that we have.
And just for the public knowledge, we are required, the city is by the EPA to prepare and distribute this report annually. So this is a normal presentation here. And we're also required by the EPA to have an opportunity for the public to participate in the presentation of this report. So if we have any comments from the council, questions, comments, concerns, or from the public or even online, Madam Secretary, this would be the time, because this is just a public hearing with not an action item, just a presentation that has to be done annually.
And I will echo what Anthony said. I travel a lot, and Mount Pleasant does have very good drinking water.
Yes, sir, we do.
We want to thank all the staff for what they do, and we appreciate y'all. Thank you, Anthony. With that, we'll move on to item 17, which is, we're going to hold a public hearing and consider the approval of ordinance 2021-11 for the request of Kyle Adams, an applicant representing Travel Plaza FM 1001 LLC, they're the owner. It's going to be for a zoning change from FD, which is Future Development District, to a C, which is a commercial district, on a 7.94 acre tract of land situated in the Lewis H. Bradley Survey, Abstract 21, Titus County, Texas, same being the land tract 1, conveyed to the Travel Plaza FM 1001 LLC, a Texas limited liability company, by deed recorded in the document number 2019-11-595, official public records of the Titus County, Texas, and generally located on the south side of I-30, east of FM 1001, and will take any action as necessary. At this time, I'll welcome Robert to go over and answer any questions and make the presentation.
Thank you, Council. This property was recently annexed into the city just a few months ago. It's the travel center that's being constructed out there on I-30 near FM 1001. And this, basically what they're constructing is a fairly large convenience store, travel center type facility with fuel cells, and they'll have food service inside there. They've got sort of a small sit-down little area in there for sort of a restaurant, fast food kind of restaurant, similar to what is sort of the model it seems to be for these newer travel centers along interstate highways, which is actually pretty nice. And we went out and looked at it. I've been inside the store. It's a very nice store for the city. But they were outside the city when they started, so this annexation process, part of that was because they wanted to tie into the city's sewer system. And they needed to be annexed in before we would allow that to happen. But associated with the zoning, the reason for the zoning is they actually requested this. We probably would have sooner or later wanted to zone them anyway, because that's generally after a period of time. Once you establish a use out there, you need to establish part of the zoning for them. But there was a bill that was passed. It was HB number 2735. That became effective back in September of 2015, and it applies to beer and wine sales for off-premise consumption. That bill allowed, under certain parameters, cities to, if there was adjacency there, when they brought them in, rather than having to have another local option election, which is pretty daunting and pretty expensive for everybody intended, for an applicant to try to do that. One of the cities and some other lobbyists had lobbied for this bill to get passed. Probably specifically, the way I understand it, it was probably aimed at a certain one on town that was trying to get a certain retailer there that was just outside their city limits but was adjacent, and it was a huge tax incentive for them for that to happen. And there was a kind of a hurdle for this kind of sales of beer and wine, and you can associate that with these major grocery stores. If you want to get a major retailer type grocery store, or I'll mention the word Costco or Sam's, or those kinds of folks that come in, and they want to offer that beer and wine for off-premise consumption as part of their business plan. So I think that's the reason this happened in 2015, and I remember this going on, that there was actually legislation being put forth. And this is part of it, but I think at the same time, I think that the cities were actually wanting this to become a mechanism for them to do it without having to go back to local options elections whenever they annexed property in, which made kind of sense. But it still hasn't happened. This is the only mechanism that allows it. And under that mechanism, there's a few criteria. This is actually part of the next item I'm going to bring up. But just to tell you that it has to be less than 1% of your total land area. The percentage, so it's a relatively small area. So that was one of the constrictions for doing this. The other is that the one that they're doing tonight is that the area has to be annexed and it has to be as a commercial land use by the city. So they had to be annexed. The zoning came up tonight for commercial, and that's the reason they have to have that in place. Lastly, that it can't be adjacent to residential, church, or school property. Well, they're really not. There's no church or school properties out there. And because of this property is out of the city limits, after kind of conversing with some of our legal staff and some other cities and whatnot, there really isn't a condition when somebody has agricultural land, it's not in the city, it's in the ETJ, that land can be used as anything. It can be a business, it can be anything. So that's not really, I don't think there's any real case law on that. That I think if it was in the city, it was adjacent to something was in the city and it was a subdivision that the city had planted or had put in, then we may have a issue with that adjacency to that. But from the research that we've done, there's really no, because of that part about it being ag, nobody's really ruled on that condition out there, so I don't think it's applicable. Now, I would still tell you that I think we can act on this in good conscience that we're not doing anything. So with that said, really but the first part of this is the zoning case. There really isn't anything out there. They're on the far eastern end of it, so there's no really adjacency to anything. Closest thing to them is Big Tex. They're straight across the street, and they're an industrial type use. Again, this commercial zoning category will allow them to do what they need to do as far as the convenience store, the fuel sales, and the food service that they need to provide. So we did hold a public hearing. We didn't really get any input from anybody. We didn't receive any notices back or anything on this. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve this by a vote of 4-0. So it is a public hearing. I would be glad to answer any questions of staff that you may have right now.
Robert, I noticed on their application to rezone, they're saying the property is presently zoned as residential, but we're saying that it's FD, Future Development District. And of course, they're wanting to request to rezone it to commercial. Can you clarify that?
It was never zoned. It's never been in this. It wasn't zoned when they were brought in. They were brought in as a future development. They misstated on their application. They're misstating. The property wasn't zoned because we annexed it just a few months ago, and there was no, when you annex property in the city, it comes in as future development. We've never had a zoning campaign.
Okay, and then just one more question in regard to that application. Do we collect the fee at time application, or do we invoice it? Because right now on this particular copy we have, it says date paid. There's no date there. So I'm just curious, when do we collect that money?
You mean the application fee? We collected it. We collected it. We had a receipt on it. We had collected it. It may not be in there, is what it is. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But we have that. We receipt that. It gets put into our general fund, wherever it goes to.
For the public, that's a $250 rezoning filing fee is what that is that we're talking about.
That is correct, $250.
Again, I'll remind everyone this is a public, consider this approval. Any comments, questions, concern from the council? Anyone in the audience that's here this evening that would like to participate in it, or if we have anyone online that have any questions or concerns? There's none online. Do we have any questions or concerns from the council at this time? Thank you, Robert. At this time, I'll close this public hearing, and we'll move on to item 18. So we do have to approve this one, I'm sorry. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the approval of ordinance 2021-11.
And I will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Adams, second by Councilmember Chappelle for the approval. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council, and it was approved unanimously. And we welcome the Travel Plaza and look forward to them getting there. We'll move on to item 18 now, which is consider approval of ordinance 2021-12 for the request of Kyle Adams, applicant representing the Travel Plaza FM 1001 LLC owner, authorizing the sale of beer and wine for off-premises consumption pursuant to the authority of the Texas Alcohol Beverage Code, Section 251.725. This will be located on a 7.94 acre tract of land situated in the Lewis H. Bradley Survey, abstract number 21, Titus County, Texas. Same being that of land tract 1 conveyed to Travel Plaza FM 1001 LLC, a Texas limited liability company, by deed recorded in document number 2019-11595. Official public records, Titus County, Texas, and generally located at the south side of I-30 on FM 1001. Concerning the Travel Plaza, again, we welcome Robert back.
Well, I won't say too much more about this. I've already kind of basically told you what's going on. This is just the second part of that. The council can approve an ordinance to allow this local election to be extended to this tract of land, and that's what the applicant is requesting that you do. So with that being said, I'd be glad to answer any questions. There's no public hearing on this case.
Thank you, Robert. Any questions, concerns from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move ordinance 2021-12, please.
Second.
Have a motion made by Councilmember Adams, second by Councilwoman Sproul. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you again, council. This was approved unanimously. At this time, we'll move on to item number 19 on our agenda this evening, which is to discuss and consider projects to be funded by the CARES grant.
Mayor and council, you are aware, I believe, of the fact that we're receiving $3.45 million from the federal government in, it's called a CARES grant, has to do with the pandemic. And we should receive our first payment. McKell's been putting all the requests in and so forth, all the things that would qualify that we spent this last year in. And we should receive our first check, 1.75 million, about within any time, 15 days or so from now. Then we'll receive another one similar to that at the end of the year, maybe in January. You've heard us talk about that we'll have this money, and occasionally we'll say, well, we can take that out of that money, we can take that out of that money. And one thing we decided that, or we said, is that until you guys designate what projects we're going to fund under this, the money is not allocated. So to kind of get ahead of that, we did put together a list of things that we need, and these are one-time things. This is not like hiring a person or adding it to the salary that's going to have to be put in every year hereafter. This is just a one-time thing that would do a project. So we have not, other than the community center, which we have borrowed money out of our general fund or out of our fund balance to fund until we get this. We've not spent any money or any designated anything. So it's not they're not in any politically or I should say politically, in prioritized list. It's just a list of things that comes to a total of $3.364 million. And if you look at the last item 9 real quick, swimming pool, we have money in the budget this year to demolish that pool and to clean up the area. Then this would be money to do something with it. Now, you see, it would come to a total of 3.364, and we're going to get 3.45, so it's about another $100,000. I just put the amount that was left kind of in swimming pool and Delwood tennis courts and basketball courts that have to be replaced. We're probably talking about $150,000 or so for one thing, and then depending on what you want to do with the swimming pool, if we want to do a pretty good sized water pad, splash pad or something out there, then that's a couple $100,000 probably. But we don't have to do that. We're not saying that's what we got to do because we really haven't had that discussion. But that's what money's left. About $400,000 then would take us up to 3.45 to do those things. But community center, $800,000. The gate at the sports complex, I sent this out to you yesterday. I think we estimated about $75,000 for the gate. Actually, 2 gates, one at each end, come in. They're about $10,000 a piece plus installation and some other things. So we're estimating about $29,000 for 2 gates at the, those would be remote gates that we can open remotely at the park. We want to close the gate every night when the park closes, so it's just closed to vehicle traffic. And so we kind of think that's a big one. The generator on number 3 is the cost it would take to put a generator at our LBS plant, water treatment plant, so that if we lost electricity, we could pump up to 95% of what we can when we have electricity. Once electricity goes off, we have a generator there, but it pumps about less than 50% of our capacity. So that's kind of a big deal. Doesn't necessarily have to come out of this grant, but we have to find somehow how to fund that and get that in. I know we've talked about grants, but this could come out of there. Pavilion at Cortinas Park, Cemetery, I'm sorry. It looks like a park if you go out there. It's well taken care of, Ricky. That may be, we're not sure what the cost is. We put that in there without knowing for sure. We're looking at purchasing a kit of a pavilion kit. So all we'd have to do is come in, put in a slab and maybe put in some taps and electricity. But then we have the kit that comes in, and we're getting prices on that now. Glenn Calvert's helping us do that. And it may be less than that figure right there. Software upgrade on our software, about $160,000. We I don't know when we got it and when the last time we upgraded, but they're taking a lot of things to the cloud. It's kind of where everything's going these days, and we need to do that upgrade if we're going to keep the software we have and so forth without changing. It's going to cost a lot more than that, so we need to do that. The storage shed at the library. And saying storage shed, it doesn't really tell the story. They need it to be heated and cooled. They need climate controlled with some electricity in there, racks for shelves and for props and things. They've got their offices full of stuff. They've got other storage units around town. We'd like to have a place where they could actually go in and actually work in there, doing some of the work that they do. And we have a place designated in the parking lot right west behind the library. Go in the corner of that parking lot. They just go out to the library and go out there and actually do some work there. And the last time we looked at that, it was about an $80,000 cost. We should have said facility instead of shed. I'm sorry, you see that as I read that. It didn't sound real good. Hangars at the airport. When was the last time, Paul, you built some hangars at the airport? And this would be 16. We're talking about 16 here. Okay. 10 or 12 hangars. But and when I was talking to him about it a year ago, it was 600,000, and then we went up to about 650,000, and he said he thinks we're at 750 now, right? Okay. So that's that we could use those hangars and they'd be full like this. So that's again, we've been talking about it for a couple of years and just didn't have a pot of money to pull from until we get this. We think that'd be a good use of the money. Then the Old Clown basketball pavilion, it's there, but putting the roof on it, it's a big project with electricity, lights, and we had that estimated at $250,000. So we put that in. That's a part of the project. Once we get our community center finished, we're going to put the roof on, raise the roof on the basketball pavilion. So that's kind of a project we've kind of committed to for the last year. And then what's less is about $400,000 that we could talk about doing something with the swimming pool. It's going to get demolished, so that wouldn't come out of this money. We do need to do some work. We don't have the estimates on the tennis courts and basketball courts. They're used a lot. They're major cracks, and the slabs are are not usable, we have to tear them out and put them down and redo them. So now, those, like I said, those are suggestions. A couple of them are kind of committed to, but we can discuss them, and if you have something else you want to do, we can talk about that now. If we decide this is what we want to do, we'd like to have a vote to say this is what we do. That way, it would be designated only for these projects.
Just for the public, again, this community center is the Pilgrims, the Oaklawn Park Center here. Let me ask you a couple questions here on the generator. Would we have use for the old generator to be able to put it somewhere else in use?
No, we use them in tandem. Both needed.
And they would keep you up running 98% or so. That'd be great. Perfect scenario. Okay. The storage building there for the library, where would we be putting that at? On the back corner, or what size would it be? Do we know kind of much about?
Yes, in fact, we have even a design that we did a year or so ago, and that's when we got the estimate from Glenn Calvert. Go in the parking lot across, what's the street right behind the library? Van Buren, right across Van Buren in that public parking lot of ours. Go in the corner there.
Okay. On the airport hangars, you said that just depends on the size as to how many you'll build at the. This will be great to have those. I know you've probably got those already pre-rented almost. If you have commitments on those immediately, I bet.
The city has 65 hangars that they rent out at the airport. In 2014, we had 45. We built the 20 in 2015. I'm talking about January 2015. We filled all those 20 up. This could be done time and again, I think. So there's a tremendous need, but this is as good as we can do. That's what we need to do.
You bet. These are funds that are out there for the taking, and if we don't come up with projects, so go ahead, Councilor.
How many of those hangars are rented more or less locally? And how many are just housing their airplanes here, probably?
I give you an exact number, that's going to be a little tough. Very few, most of them are all local people. We have a few people that live out on the lake or Mount Vernon or, like that. But it's people that fly for the most part. Now, hey, do we have a few planes that don't fly much? Sure, every airport does. But we've got 130 aircraft based out there. That's a lot of airplanes.
We also have, we're running out of space out at the airport, and there's to the south of the airport, there's property available, but it dips down as low. And we are looking at one of the projects we're doing with the wastewater treatment plant. As far as the outfall line, we're looking at maybe, it's got a hump in it, little hill in it, looking at maybe doing some excavation. That'll be a cost, of course, to us to move that and then move it into that low area and build it up to where we can put some corporate hangars possibly, and or whatever kind of hangars. But we'd have to do that. The proximity of the airport with the wastewater treatment plant makes that a pretty doable possibility thing to do that.
I wanted to pick Anthony's brain a little bit on the generator. So could you explain to us for this cost here, because I deal with generators all the time myself, what size KW, are you putting in a new ATS automatic transfer switch, are we doing propane, gasoline, how big is the tank going to be, is it going to sit on top of the tank, et cetera, that type of deal?
Well, I don't have any specifics, but this one here is a 560 kW. It's going to be diesel. It'll have the automatic transfer, all the bells and whistles, that if we lose power and automatic switch over, we only know that it happened.
On our current generators, are they set up to notify you if they fail on transfer, or when they gen run or gen fail, that type of deal? Do we get notifications?
We get notifications because of at the plants, on our SCADA system will let us know that the, pumps didn't kick on and stuff like that, so.
Right, but the generators themselves can generate actual alarms to let you know, hey, the transfer switch transferred, the generator's running, or if the gen fail, or if the overcrank, low coolant, that type of deal. I don't know if we're taking advantage of those alarms that the ATS generator controllers will provide us.
We do have those. It's inside the plant on our SCADA system.
Do you have it set up to where you can get it on your phone?
Do not have it set up on our phone, but we are manned 24/7 at the plant.
Okay, so a man is actually watching the screen or whatever when the notification comes in?
Yes, sir.
Question, if this is a one-time grant, is there another grant that you can purchase the generator out of?
So, Mikhail, did you find a place that we get a grant?
I'm working on the HGMP grant. It's called the Hazard Mitigation Grant, and Lenny's working on getting me the specs. I just talked to Lenny tonight about the specs on that grant, and that grant application is due August 8th. And so once I get all that in, we'll determine whether or not it's a 75-25 grant, where the city pays 75%, and the grant pays 75% and the city pays 25%. And so I'm working on getting that grant in. So we'll see if we get that one. So it's up to, that grant is, they have up to $288,000 that they're giving to all the cities, but you know, any city can apply for it. So so it just depends on what you need, and they're looking at how long each city went without power, how many residents will be affected by the generators, and I mean, there's a lot of information that I have to put in. So that's what they're going by is, I mean, there's a big form that I'm filling out, which is and they're really looking at basically on the last winter storm and in any winter storm for the past 3 years, how long has the city gone without power, how many residents were affected, how much reliability it is, and just, you know, what's your basic, in the event of a hazard, you know, or, you know, basically in the event of a, you know, natural disaster, how much this generator would prevent and how many people will affect. And so the fact that
It's all of Texas, except for a handful of cities over in the east that are in SWEPCO, we didn't lose power, so that may be a problem.
went to the generator, you know, we used the generator during that winter storm to run our sewer station for a little bit. And then the fact that it affected our neighboring cities, I mean, our neighboring, you know, our ability to, the TRISA.
On that, we had a panel switch burn up or something out there, put us out of power for several hours, and we got that fixed, but we were on the one generator.
And so that's the kind of thing that I'm going to put in there is that, you know, just because we weren't out of power because of, you know, the public utility company, if we do go out of power and or lose power, we have a lot of people relying on us to keep our, you know, our system running, Pilgrims and TriSud and, you know, several other people. So, I mean, I don't want to think that just because we weren't part of this last utility outage doesn't mean we won't get the grant.
I would say that'd be a big plus for us to use the Pilgrim facility and TriSud, our obligations to both of those. So that ought to be a card you could play that. That would definitely show, should show them we deserve it and tell them we think we do. Let me ask you, how quick do we need to make a determination on spending of this 3.45 million? I mean, for you to be able to put the figures in for the projects and all.
So we don't have to really determine that right away. They'll send us the money within 15 days, and then we'll get the next one in 1 year from that. So it's like, I think August 1st we'll get it, and then we'll get the next tranche of money from August 1st. I just have to start putting in, we'll have to justify like the 1.7 million before they send us the next tranche. So as soon as they send me the 1.7, I'll have to start loading in the expenditures and start loading in, the different justifications for what our projects and stuff will be. So I guess as soon as we start on the 1.7 will be the soon as we get the remaining 1.7, if that makes any sense.
It does. I guess my question would be, we could always change some of these around a little bit if we needed to. At the pleasure of the council, I think that'd be important. Does the council have any other questions from the council?
Mikhail, do we still have a line item in the budget for the maintenance dollars that would be spent on the pool? If we still had a pool, do we know what kind of money was spent on an annual basis to maintain that pool we used to operate?
Right now, in the current budget, those money has been allocated. The pool staff we were using as part of our intern program. So every summer we used to hire the pool people. So we've kept that in there, and we're still hiring like the high school kids, and we're using them. We used to hire, I guess, 6 people to work as lifeguards, and we're still continuing that, but we're hiring them to work around as interns here. And then the maintenance budget that was there for the pool is being used in the park budget, and Ricky's been utilizing that money right now to put in extra maintenance on the park to help them bring, to get a lot of stuff up to code and things like that, and replace a lot more things in the park and do extra tree trimming and stuff like that. So we've really just placed a lot of that money into the park budget, and we've been utilizing it there.
So if we were to move forward with part of this grant money to build, let's just say, another pool, we just need to make sure we keep in mind that we've got to reallocate those maintenance dollars back to the pool, because we cannot neglect the new pool.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions for Mikhail concerning this, or Mr. Thatcher from the council? If not, I guess our question would be, do we want to go ahead and consider these projects tonight, or you bring them back to us? As the council, it's the will of the council. It's the will of the council as to what we do. If we go ahead and go with the preliminary figures, I'm of the understanding that we can change these if need be. If we decide there's something we want to allocate some funds another direction, we can. But let Mikhail get started on with this. It's just the will of the council.
Because I'm assuming some of these numbers are conservative numbers, so we may come back after one of these is done and have some extra money from that particular project left over that we could consider, like you said, put somewhere else or towards one that looks like it might go a little over.
That's it. That's exactly right. So do we need to, would you like for us tonight, Mr. Thatcher, to kind of give a nod for a go-ahead? Is that what you, okay?
I've got a question, I guess, for Ricky. We've got 300,000 allocated for the pool and the tennis courts and the basketball courts at Delwood, and most of us know what kind of shape those are in. The tennis courts are used at night a lot for soccer, and so do we really need to reconsider how we're utilizing that? I mean, tell me what your thoughts are on that.
So absolutely, we've got a plan, not necessarily to go back the way that it is. So just in my thought process, a basketball court, a tennis court, a big volleyball court, an indoor, I say indoor, but it's outdoor, an improved surface so they can play like an indoor soccer foul. And the current lighting system would still be intact.
I haven't been down there in a little while, but if we got all the lights and stuff working down there, if we kind of resolved some of that, or was it just, last time I was down there, it was kind of like potluck, but you've been here since then, so tell me what you've done down there.
So I hope I'm not misspeaking, but the lighting system works now. Is it probably the best? Could it be upgraded some? Absolutely.
I walk every day in the morning there in the last year, so it's been so much work done since 2019. The lights work in the morning. I walk in the morning.
One time out there was about a quarter of the basketball court was covered in dirt, I remember.
Yeah, I was just, some large cracks. So we're talking about taking that up and coming back with maybe a single tennis court and a single basketball court, and then some other facility that they can use, because even the fencing and stuff down there was atrocious.
So absolutely, in my opinion, all of that just needs to be torn out. And so the demolition of the current basketball and tennis courts, that is included in the demolition of the pool. And I had that in the budget for the upcoming.
Okay, any other questions for Ricky? Okay, thank you, Ricky. If not, I guess I'll go ahead. This is an item here we can, I'll entertain a motion as to going forward with this and let them, the projected project for the CARES grant.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with these projects under the CARES grant.
I second the motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Chappelle, second by Councilmember Walker, to consider the project to be funded by the CARES grant. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. We'll move on at this time to our public comment section, which anyone from the public can come forward, state your name and your concerns, and we'll hear you. I'll ask Madam Secretary, do you have anyone online that have any questions or concerns online?
No, sir, there are no online.
Yes, sir. Come forward. Just push the little red button right there as you speak.
Evening. My name is Butch Elrod. I live out in Silver Creek Edition. And I was watching online earlier tonight, and I heard how y'all were going to redo a bunch of the streets out in our edition, which is great. We need it. My question to y'all is, what are you going to do about the drainage? Almost every homeowner out there has got, every time it rains, we have anywhere from a foot to a foot and a half water in our yards. Me personally, me and my wife, we've spent over $22,000 trying to alleviate the flooding in our yard, to no avail. There's no fixing it. The last city council annexed us into the city of Mount Pleasant, and we were told that if we agreed to it, that they would help us out. Nada. We haven't gotten anything. We're out of money. We can't fix it. So what is the city council going to do for its taxpayers out there to fix this issue?
Has it been flooding a long time, or before you got annexed, or?
Before we got annexed. I've lived there. We bought our home brand new in 2005. And since 2005, it's been flooding.
So we'll get with you. Your name is Elwood?
Elrod.
We'll get with you, Mr. Elrod, and we'll have our engineers look at it and see what it will take to do that. Sounds like your developer did not drain the subdivision properly, but we'll need to look at what the outfall is and everything, but we'll get with you and work on it.
When the meeting's over, just get with Mr. Thatcher on, with your address there and your phone number. We won't do that in the public here, but, just do that if you don't mind. And we appreciate you being here and with these concerns. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the, public comment section here? Do we have anyone online? Any questions? Okay, if not, I will close this public comment session and we'll move on to item 21 on our agenda, which is the city manager's report.
Yeah, the meeting's pretty long and I don't have much. I do want to say one thing in case there's people listening, but also to the council. We probably should have more discussion, and I think we will on this. We've been having some concerns from people as far as putting signs up and banners, more specifically, not from businesses, but from the 501c3s, nonprofits, and so forth. If you remember, we had this discussion. We came up with a policy that with under our sign ordinance, and we had discussion maybe within the last year at least, or since Robert's been here, and that was that people can put signs on private property, on their own businesses can put it on their property, but off property, on somebody else's property, with permission they can do it, but they have to have permission. And then the other one was for 501c3s, nonprofits. We have a little one sheet thing with all these steps on there, what to do. You have to get a permit. You have to come to the city and get a permit. The purpose of that is so we know who's got the sign, where it's going to be. If you're going to put it on somebody's property, we know that you got their permission. We can determine how long it's going to be there, what it's for, and so forth. So you need to come to the city. The fee is waived. There will be no cost to nonprofits, football association, softball association, little league, soccer, rodeo, all of those, the schools. So there won't be any fee, but we'd like you to get a permit rather than just go out and throw one up somewhere. Therefore, we know if it's in TxDOT right away or if it's in our right of way, should not be put in right away, should be on private property that somebody's giving you permission to. So that's the policy. Some of these, what's used to be happening, what I'm hearing, is we've always been able to just go out and stick it up anywhere we want, or up by the chamber, or up down by Walgreens. And if we can have further discussion, that's what the council wants to go back to, that would be fine. But we're trying to know who's putting up signs and what their purpose is and so forth. I know up there at by the chamber, we had so many up there. Some businesses wanted to hire people. Some of them, we had Easter parties, this kind of thing. It was discovered. I don't think anybody could read anything. We may want to limit the number or whatever, but I personally don't think they're effective when there's so many. Anyway, that's my thought. We do have a policy on it.
Let me ask you, Mr. Thatcher, just about, do we have that policy online for the public to review? Do you know if we have that online yet?
I know we have it over here where you get the permit. We ought to put it on the line. We can put the bullet point out there and say, if you need to get a permit, come here. We have to ask the chamber, because everybody will go there and ask them, can I put this up on your property? And we tell them, that's not your property. But just send them to the city. We'll give them a permit, and we kind of tell them where to go, so it's not just loaded at one place.
That might be good if we could put that online, for people to look at, that'd be good.
Been requested for a long time. Down next to Walgreens, who determines who puts the sign up there and how long it stays there?
Well, if people have been used to just going and putting them up, and then they stay as long as they want, but the city decides that when they come in and get a permit, they tell us how long they want it there. In fact, we'd even talked about, our current ordinance says 14 days, but we'd even talked about that we want to extend the time to 30 days or something. But it's usually for an event that's happening, and we don't have a problem there. we'd like to back up to so they're on higher up on the hill on private property and not down on the tech dot right away. But they come to us, we determine that with them.
The problem that I've heard citizens say is some folks' signs stay longer than other ones don't. Some folks have it for 2 weeks, and some folks can be there a month, and some folks have a week. And they want to know how you determine who keeps the sign so long.
That's because they've not been getting permits. They've just been throwing them up there. And we've been reluctant to pull them down. But, you know, we talked to y'all, we got past a certain point in the spring, and then we started just, if they didn't have a permit, pull them down. Now, recently, we had lots of them up here by the chamber, and I asked my guys not to put them down until I'd talked to some of the big business guys in town, who, by the way, the people I talked to, the owners, didn't even know their sign was there. They said, somebody works for me, put that up there, and I'll get it down, that kind of thing.
A lot of those was help wanted signs for hiring.
I will say this, just so everybody knows, I have a nonprofit sign in front of my business right now, and I actually requested that the person bring me the paperwork so I could fill it out and actually pull the permit myself. So that will get done tomorrow. But I would like to say this. I have had a discussion with Ed over it, and actually I think the issue is not what the process, or not what the process is, but it's maybe the delivery of the process. Okay, so you know, that's something we can discuss at a different time, and I think it's probably needed to be discussed. But a lot of times the way you deliver the process has as much to do with the kickback as putting a process in place. We haven't had a process in place, and maybe, you know, maybe you don't do an overhanded slam over the net like a tennis drive. Maybe you do a little lob the first time, and then you go further and further. But the delivery has a lot to do with it.
A lot of times we don't know, like, a lot of times we don't know who put the signs up. You know, they just show up. The only way we can do it is if we take it down and then they come call us, do you have my sign? And then we can talk to them about it. And, but a lot of people don't call us. They don't call me, don't call Robert, don't call our they call you and this council. And so, and of course, I guess that's your job. You ran for that, so you got a job. But if you can refer them back to us, come talk to us. Our guys are reasonable, and I believe we're reasonable. I don't think we're dealing with people over the top like you're saying, but I think by the time they get to you, they're mad because they got something taken down. But we haven't even talked to them. We don't even know who they are.
And by the time they get to us, they are mad. And so, you know, sometimes we're trying to put a forest fire out with a tow sack, you know, and that's not a good situation to be in. And so we're not saying, well, I'm personally not saying that the ordinance is necessarily wrong. I'm not saying that the guys over there are doing something wrong. Honestly, I actually believe that, you know, we need to open up some lines of communication between the people that do it regularly do it, because they're people that are servants to the community. The one I have in my on my grass right now, the gentleman he's got young kids, but he's been doing stuff with kids in the football association and baseball forever. That's all they do. They're servants to the community. And so sometimes when the situation pops up and we change the way we're doing things, I'm just saying maybe the delivery needs to be a little softer so we don't get into a situation where we make somebody mad that's been a servant to community for their whole life, you know. So we need those people. We need those people to still do what they do because they're honorable. They're honorable people, and they mean well. If they get frustrated and get upset, it doesn't do anybody any good, you know. So, and I'm just saying softer gloves work sometimes.
I agree with you, certainly. I know a lot of things, what we're hearing from people. Like, again, I didn't know who this gentleman was till you contacted me, but a lot of what we're hearing is, why do we have to get a permit? We've never had to do it for the last 33 years. We could do anything we wanted. And I gotta confess to you that I've heard that so long, the whole time I've been here, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. So I have to stop and think about it. It's not the person I'm talking to now. It's somebody else that has cast the die in this town for how things ought to be for a lot of time. And so that seems to be what people are upset about. I used to do anything I wanted to here, and now we could still do what you wanted. We just have a little process, and I agree we can reach out. I think putting it on social media would be helpful, and also if they come to you, possibly you could say you'll call Ed or call Robert, or because they haven't yet. You know, you're the first one they talk to. So if we had your help on that, it'd be helpful.
I've talked to you about it before, but I want to make it public knowledge. I think that I would like to have a meeting, and I want you to put it together for me, and I'll help do whatever I need to do. I would like permit and code to have a public meeting again like we did, a year ago, I believe. They've been here a year. They've become accustomed to some of the people that we have operating, but some of the things I'm hearing is maybe some things are not working quite so well. Maybe we can all sit down with the contractors and businessmen in town, and we can figure out, are there areas that we need to change? You know, the feeling of course, you know, when you go from one process to the next, there's always growing pains. Is there something in place that maybe if we sit down and we listen to everybody, maybe the code enforcement can say, hey, I can't do that. If you need to do it that way, we need to change it. We need to do it this way. Maybe we can learn something by sitting down. And I already asked you, and I'd like to reiterate that. I'd like for a meeting to take place sometime between the last week in August and the first week in September, if all possible, and try to get the businessmen that develop properties around here. I'd like to get the contractors that build properties. I'd like to get those people all in a room together and have a conversation.
Yes, we can do that, and we'll do that. You have finished it too, and I agree. I think it'd be good if people on both sides would learn stuff and come together.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ed. At this time, we'll move on. Pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, the City Council will now recess into executive session, which is a closed meeting, to discuss the following litigation, consult with City Attorney concerning legal matters, Texas Government Code 551-.071, 551.071 personnel matters, to discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline or dismissal of a public officer or an employee. So at this time, we will recess into executive session, and we will return if there's any action. Thank y'all for being here tonight. Okay, we're back from our executive session. It is now 10:52 p.m. and no action was taken. And at this time, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move with adjourn.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded. We're adjourned.